Reminded me. Okay, I just started the recording. So guys, let me share my screen as well. Share. So let me actually do this. Right. Yes, guys. Now, let's say Prashanti.
Yeah, Sham.
What is this kind of testing called as?
This is load testing.
Load testing. Perfect. Now, can you define load testing?
To measure the performance under the expected load.
To measure the performance under the expected load. And what do you exactly mean by performance?
The response time.
The response time.
And the server performance and the load.
And server performance under the load. Okay. But then, when you are actually asked about performance testing, you should also mention some words as, Pawan was mentioning. You should also keep ensuring that you have to mention some technical words so that people would feel more comfortable. All right. So what are those technical words that you would like to mention? Yes, guys. What would be the technical words that you would want to mention?
To meet the SLA.
To four major factors that we would want to do in the performance testing is to measure the speed, stability, scalability, and reliability.
Hey Shyam,
Okay?
sorry to interrupt. Someone is waiting in the lobby. It seems. Can you please allow them? Can you please admit them into the meeting? Do you see anyone waiting in the lobby?
Yes. I see.
Okay.
Sandy Sangoju.
Sandeep. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I did not see that.
Thank you.
That's okay. Okay. So, these are the important things that you would actually try to take a look at while doing the performance testing. And when we ask you to define the load testing, we would say, okay, we're going to measure the performance of the application under expected load. And what is that particular expected load? What is that particular expected load? When this particular application goes live, what is the kind of load that this application would face, whether it is users or whether it is transactions. Okay.
Okay.
Clear about this, guys? And how much time would you do the load testing for?
1 to 2 hours.
1 to 2 hours. Perfect. Now, in the same graph, let's just assume that this particular load, whatever the load that you are actually testing, this particular target load that you are actually going to test, this is the expected load after, say, 5 years. In that case, what would the testing be called as? Anil.
It's a scalability testing.
It's a scalability test.
Testing.
Okay. And how much time would you do this particular scalability test for?
It will be like 1 to 2 hours.
Yes.
1 to 2 hours again. Okay. So again, let's say this particular scalability test failed. What would happen? Do you want to stop the release of this particular application?
No, it's not going to stop the release of the application. Just we'll inform to the customer or developers.
Exactly. We would inform the developers that, your application is working fine for the load test, loads. But then if there is an increase in the load, your application might not really perform well. Okay. So before the load starts increasing, you might actually want to go into business now. But then before the load starts increasing, you would actually have to fix this particular application, and you would actually have to do one more round of testing in order to ensure that your application stays well. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Very good, guys. Now, let's just say that, I don't know. Okay. Now, what is this kind of testing called as? Who will answer me? Who will answer me? Sai Venkat. I'm sorry. Yes,
Sai
guys?
Venkat, are you with us?
Good morning, bro.
Yeah. What is this kind of testing called as?
Soak testing or endurance testing?
Perfect. Soak testing or endurance testing. Okay, because the test
Bro,
was sorry.
I have a doubt and I will send in the group chat. Can you explain it?
Yeah, sure. You already sent it over here. Okay. I have a doubt. Suppose we have 20K users, but our website handle up to 7K users. We take next step for 7K for soak testing and capacity testing. Now remaining users added to website. Now which testing we can run? Either load testing or stress testing. Okay, we have 20K users. Okay, see, this is what we would have to do a proper requirements gathering. All right, so what do we do in the requirements gathering? We would try to understand what is the kind of load that this particular application is going to attract. Now in the first year, let's say there are 7,000 users. Okay, in the first year there are 7,000 users. Now this particular application, you do a load test for 7,000 users, and you certified that everything is working fine. You do a soak test for 7,000 users, everything is still working fine. Great. So you release the application to the general public. Now you do a scalability test for in the requirements gathering. The scalability test requirements are something like, okay, we want to test this particular application for 20,000 users. Great. You tested with 20,000 users. Now the application is not working fine. So you have actually failed this particular scalability test. And now you are actually informing the client that, okay, your scalability test has failed. Before your application attracts more number of users, before the target number of users start increasing, you would actually have to improve this application, tune this application, engineer this application in a way that it would actually be able to sustain more load. And then
Can we start from load testing for
yes,
this another 20
yes, let me complete. And then you would actually have to do one more round of testing and then release it to the general public. Again, one more release. Now guys, what would happen? Would the client immediately listen to you? Some clients yes, some clients no. They would think, okay, well, we'll see when the users actually increase in my business, right? So they would wait until the users start actually increasing, and when they see that they're actually starting facing the issues, that's when they would immediately ask the developers to actually fix the application. Okay. Now at that particular point of time, let's say your user load on the application is already 10,000 users. Okay, is already 10,000 users. Now what does the load test requirement is? What would be the load test requirement?
First we have 7K and next we have 20K, sir.
20K? No, that was the original requirement, right? But then now once we are by the time we have tuned this application, you already have
7K.
10K users, 10K users on the system.
Okay.
Now your load test requirement itself is 10K users. Okay, you would have to also ensure that you are reviewing your requirements at regular intervals. Okay, clear about it, guys?
Sir.
So your load test requirement itself would become 10K users, and then your scalability test requirement would become 20K users, or maybe at that time you have reviewed and you have made it 25K. Who knows? right?
So, yeah, what would the user for the stress test?
Okay,
If
what
we are
is
using
stress test?
10K
What is stress
stress,
test?
stress test is basically we have do a multiple 3x load with the load testing. What is the expected load? We just multiply with the 2x or 3x.
Yeah, that is one type of stress test. Yeah, yes, as we discussed yesterday, what is stress test? You are basically trying to stress out the application, by either increase the number of users, either increase the number of transactions, decrease the kind of infrastructure that you have on the server side. Whatever that you are trying to do, you are trying to stress out the application, right? Yes, guys. Okay, so when you are actually trying to do the when would you do a stress test? When would you do a stress test? Common sense, guys. It's not like, it's not a sequence. It's common sense. Now, if only when your load test passes, only when your scalability test passes, only when your soak test passes, after you complete at least these three, ensure that your application is working for the expected requirements. That is when you would go for the stress test, right? You would not jump into the stress test, even without the scalability test passing, isn't it?
Correct.
Right? So what you would do, you would ensure that your scalability test passes, and then that is when you would actually think, okay, my scalability test has passed, my application is good for 5 years. If there is no stress on the system,
Sir,
then you would think,
but
okay, let's see what would happen when there is stress on the system. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, coming back to Sai Venkat.
Sir, but I mean, our scalability test has handle up to 15K users. But what about 5K users? Can we start from starting, or can we extend here for scalability testing another 5 users?
That's a very good question. Now, what you have done, let's actually write it down. Okay. We are actually coming up with very, very good questions. Good, guys. See, initial requirements. Load test 7K. Scalability 25K. Okay. Now, initial test results. Load and soak. Soak passed. Scalability failed. Right? Application is tuned. By the time application is tuned, system is already running with 10K users. So now load test requirement is 10K. Scalability,
30K.
let's just say, okay, 30K. Revised requirements. Okay. So revised requirements, right? Okay. Load test is 10K. Scalability test is 30K. Okay. This is the revised requirement. But guys, now since the load test already passed for 7K, or you have done a test, and since the load test already passed for 7K, now can I directly go and hit the hit this application with 30K without
No,
testing it for 7K or
no,
10K?
we have to execute with the 7K, then 10K. Then we gradually increase the load by 50, 20, and 25.
Why?
Because what will be the need if system is not able to handle 20K load, then what will be the expectation for the 30K?
We can always come down. That's not the problem. The problem is, guys, the problem is application is tuned. What does that mean? There is a change in the code, or there are changes in the configurations of the application, right? So the moment you change something in the code or in the configurations or whatever, what would happen? It might actually behave. You don't know what would be the behavior of this application then. Okay, it might not even be able to take 10K load. The reason why you have tuned is in order to ensure that you would actually be able to get more performance out of this application. But then you don't know, right? You got fever, doctor gave you medicine. It's an experiment. If the doctor has diagnosed properly, his medicine would work and your fever would decrease. But instead of diagnosing you with malaria, here when you had malaria, instead of diagnosing you with malaria, he diagnosed you with typhoid. He gave you medicines for typhoid. What would happen? What would happen?
It won't work.
It won't work. Your fever would keep increasing, right? So similarly, what would happen when your application is not tuned properly? When you misdiagnose some issues, when your application is not tuned properly, what would happen? It might not even work for the previous load as well, right? So what you have to do, you would actually have to test, with whatever the initial load is. Okay, with whatever the initial load is, ensure that it is working fine. Then whatever the revised load test is, you would have to test that, ensure that that is also working fine, and then you would actually have to think about the next scalability test. Okay, is that clear, guys?
Yeah, clear.
Yeah. Any doubts, any questions?
Shyam, like after tuning again, we need to run 7K users like for 1 hour to do the load test.
Yes, you would have to run the 7K users for 1 hour. You would have to ensure that everything is working fine. Everything is still working fine. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And guys, that with the way that we work is at a point of time, you would know with enough experience, you would know with whatever the tuning that you have done, most probably your application will work, or you would know that you have just made an experiment, you don't know what would happen. Okay, if you know for sure that this application is gonna work, then most probably we might actually skip 7K and we might actually go with 10K. It's just a test, right? You would just test it with 10K. If it does not work, then you might actually want to go down to 7K and test it to start with. Okay, it all depends on what is the comfort level that you have with the application. Okay, but let's say you are entering newly into the project. In that case, follow the process. Okay, we've done a test with 7K, and after that, you did a scalability test, it did not pass, so you would actually go with tuning of the application. And once you tune the application, you would again start the testing at 7K. Okay, yes guys, am I confusing you? Is this clear?
Yeah, it's understood.
Yes, bro.
Good. Okay,
The tuning
good
part
question.
will be done by developers, right?
Yeah, as we discussed previously, all this depends upon your role. Okay, for example, if you are actually hired as a performance engineer or performance architect, then you might actually be expected to give some suggestions for the performance tuning as well. Okay, you might be expected to give suggestions for the performance tuning. But if you are just a performance tester, then obviously that would be taken care of by the developers. But guys, even if you are a performance engineer or a performance architect role, usually what would happen is whatever the tuning suggestions that you give would obviously be would be reviewed by the developers, the architects, and they would ensure that whatever the tuning suggestions that you are giving makes sense, and only then they would implement. Okay, it would be a collaborative effort. It's not like you are expected to do the complete tuning and ensuring that the application works well. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, guys. Yes, guys.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions before we go ahead?
So in most of the scenarios, we use these three tests: load test, soak test, and scalability.
That's right. And for ensuring that any application works fine, we would actually do a minimum of these three tests: load test, soak test, and scalability test. Okay, we would ensure that we do at least these three tests in order to ensure that this is working perfectly fine. And once we are done with this, that is when we would actually go with the remaining types of tests. Okay, and there could be clients who might say, okay, I don't care about all the other tests. I just need to ensure that my application is working for load, endurance, and scalability. Okay.
Okay.
Especially if you have some internal applications that are being developed. Okay. For example, I worked extensively in banking, so I usually take banking examples. But then feel free to suggest some other examples as well. Okay, so let's say I'm trying to test an internal application for ICICI Bank. What do I mean by that? Apart from whatever the ICICIbank.com website that you have, if you go to the bank, if you are actually trying to talk to the bank employees, the application that they have would be different from whatever that you are seeing. Okay, obviously there would be a higher access. They would have a lot of internal stuff that would be going on, right? So if I'm trying to develop an application for the internal employees of a bank, and if I'm going to try to test that particular internal application, in that case, I have a very good hold on how many number of employees that I have this year. After 5 years, how many more employees I'm going to hire. I have a very good hold on that, isn't it? And usually for the internal applications, there is extremely less threat of security. So all these things, if I take into consideration, maybe I just want to restrict myself to load test, soak test, and scalability test. Get my point, guys?
Okay. So coming to the capacity spike and stress testing, that will be done according to the requirement. Otherwise,
Yes,
we don't.
yes, that would be completely done according to the requirement. Why? Guys, performance testing is a pretty costly exercise. And one more thing is, the moment you tune the application, the moment you add some feature to the application, all your testing is, you would actually have to repeat that. Okay, even the manual testing or automation testing, whatever it is, you would actually do a regression test, isn't it? Right? When you add a feature, or when you actually change some code in the application, you would actually do a regression test in order to ensure that nothing is actually broken because of the newly introduced code, right? So what you would do is, even over here, you would actually do a regression kind of performance testing. Okay, so you would actually have to do the regression test. Now, why we are not doing this? Because especially if the application is in development stage, or you are adding new features to the application, no, trying to understand the capacity of the application by using this particular capacity test is a moot point. Why? every time you try to get this particular application tuned or add new features to the application, and you are trying to do a repeat of the performance test, the regression of the performance test, before we do that, we would actually again ask the question, all right, what is your load requirement now, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is always getting revised. It is always, we are trying to get the new requirements, ensure that we are working with the absolute new requirements. So in those cases, the capacity testers might not really be required. You are spending a lot of resources and time on this. So is that obviously the client would look for value for money, right? Whatever the money that he's spending. So they might actually go with it, they might not go with it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
In the last couple of years, guys, I'm being very frank with you. In the last couple of years, there was only one instance that I got to do a capacity test. If it is for me, if it is left to me, I would do the capacity test for every project that I work with. Okay, but then that is out of my own interest, right? I would want to actually engineer the project to ensure that it attains maximum capacity. But that is my own requirement. That is my own interest. But would the client want me to spend so much time, money, and resources on that? No, definitely not. In the past 2 years, there was only one approval that I got for capacity test. Okay.
Got you.
John, if client is not aware with the technicality, so what would be we are assuming to do an application for the how much user we need to start and how much will be the TPS, and client is not aware of this.
Yes, this is one of the major problems that we would face, especially in the performance testing kind of scenario, guys. Good question. This is one of the major problems that we would face. Okay, they would just simply say that, okay, even while giving the requirements, they would simply say that, you know what, I want to test this particular application with 10,000
It's
users.
10,000 users. Correct.
Okay, now where did the 10,000 number come from? Did they pull it out of thin air? Sometimes yes, guys. Sometimes the clients pull it out of thin air. Okay, magic, 10,000 users, test it. Okay, so we would have to understand the technicality of how we would be able to, get that particular requirements. Okay, and we would have to ensure that the client is not pulling out numbers from thin air. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we do that? So guys, there are two kinds of applications, especially when you are going for the performance testing. There could be two kinds of scenarios, not two kinds of applications. There could be two kinds of scenarios. Okay, what are the scenarios? One, you are actually trying to test an application which is already live. Okay, maybe you are adding some new features to the application, and that's why you're testing it again. Or maybe the application is facing some performance issues and you are testing it again, whatever, right? The application is already live and you are actually trying to test that particular application. Two, what is the second case in a second scenario? Yes, guys.
Yes.
A completely new application. There is no existing users for this particular application. A completely new application you are trying to launch, right? So guys,
Right.
if you in the first scenario is very, very simple, guys. You already have an application in place, right? So now what are the existing number of users that are there on the application? What is the existing number of transactions that these users are making on the application? Now with whatever the added features that you are going with, how many users do you expect to increase on this particular application? It should be pretty straightforward. Okay, the DBS should be able to give you a very good guidance on what are all these numbers. Now you should
Where do
also,
we get that numbers?
the DBS should be able to provide you. the database administrator should be able to provide you, because the database administrator, in the DB, everything would get logged. How many users are logging into the application? How many total users are there on this particular application? How many concurrent users are there? Everything would get logged. How many transactions are happening? Okay, so if there is a write DBA, you should actually be able to write a few queries, and you should be able to get all that particular information for you. Okay, also if you have some monitoring tools like APIM tools like Dynatrace, Splunk, you should be able to get that done by yourself. Okay.
Okay.
So either ways, you should be able to get that particular information, and you should be able to tell that, okay, this is what is the existing client base, this is what is the peak concurrent users that I have. So this is what is the new users expectation that you are trying to give me, and I would obviously add a little buffer to that. Is that coming up to 10,000 users? Great. If it is not, then justify your requirement. Okay. Lot of times, guys, these challenges would go to and fro. Okay. Clear about it, guys?
Shyam sir, Satish here. Can you show some of the queries to write to identify the logs from the Splunk?
Yes, I can, but not at this point. I don't want to scare everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to get some ease with the performance test tools, ease with the APIM tools, and then we'll go to the advanced topics. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
For sure, we'll talk about it, but a little later. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sir.
Yeah. Clear about this, guys?
Yes. Sham, where can I get the nodes of this definition so that I can check?
Okay. Normally what is happening is I'm actually talking a lot, and everything is getting recorded. So you would actually be able to review the recordings, and you can actually get the notes. And once you are once you have completely enrolled, then we would also share some PPTs with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
At end of the session, can you show how to enroll? I mean, is there any link that we have to enroll, or directly just by giving a word?
You have this particular number, right? WhatsApp number.
Right. Yes.
This is Pawan's number.
Okay.
So ping Pawan, and he would guide you to enroll. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And you can also ping me. Do I have the number? Let me give you my number also. Give me 1 moment. Sorry, guys, I got deviated for just a moment. Yeah. Yeah. What was I telling? My number, right? Okay. 9450747. Okay. Let me actually ping it in the chat. Okay. So you can ping me on the WhatsApp. We can actually talk about it. Okay.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Yes, guys, please come, complete your enrollment, everyone, to ensure that, we continue with our sessions. Okay. I believe we'll have only 1 or 2 more demo sessions, and after that we'll not entertain any more, new inquiries for this batch. For the next batch, you're always welcome, but for this batch, we would stop, taking in new guys. Okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yes, guys. All right.
What would be the second scenario, answer?
Yeah,
That-
good that you actually reminded me. Now, what would be the second scenario? What would happen in the second scenario? This is a little tougher situation, guys. This is where you would not have any information on whatever you since you don't have an existing application, you can't fall back on the data that is already available. So it would be uh, based upon the market research, based upon the kind of advertising that you are going with, based upon whatever that your competitors are attracting. Okay, so you would actually have to get all that particular information based on market research, and sometimes you would also have to pull numbers out of thin air. No choice. Okay, so depending on that, we would actually we would do some market research. Let's say I'm actually opening a bank. Okay, I'm actually opening a new bank. Now I would if I say I would get 10,000 users but 10,000 accounts in the first month, how would I know that I would get 10,000 accounts in the first month? I would say, okay, I'm going to so many corporates, I'm asking them to open the accounts with me. Okay, I'm also advertising so much. If I go and if I advertise in 1,000 Facebook accounts, let's say one person would actually come and open it. The Facebook would actually be guiding you on all that information. There would be 1% conversion rate, 0.1% conversion rate. Okay, so based upon the kind of business that you are opening. All right, so based upon all that particular research, you would actually come to a number. Okay, I'm going to reach out to 100,000 people in this area. I'm opening a new bank over here. So now in this 100,000 people, when I reach out, out of 1,000 people, there will be only one person who would actually open the account according to Facebook research. So I would have 100 accounts from them. Now I would also go to several corporates, and I would actually ask these corporates to open an account with me. I would give them some good offers. Okay, some welcome benefits. Now these corporates also, out of 10 corporates I approach, probably one corporate might actually listen to me. Okay, and so I would actually have say some 1,000 users from that particular corporate. Okay, so I have I'm going to approach for, let's say I'm in an industrial area or something like that, and or I'm in Hyderabad, right? I can have unlimited number of corporates over here. So I'm going to approach 100 corporates. So there will be 10 corporates who would actually listen to me. There would be 10 into 1,000. There will be around 10,000 users coming in from corporates. 100 users coming in from Facebook reach out. 100 users coming in from LinkedIn, something like that, right? So a total of 11,000 users. Okay. Out of 11,000 users, how many users would concurrently access my application? Probably 1,000, right? So like this, we would have to build the numbers. Okay. But guys, one thing is, especially when you are actually trying to work with a new application, absolutely new application, when you are trying to work, it is the job of the business analyst to actually give you these numbers. Most of the times, we don't question them. Okay, because it is very risky to question them at that particular point of time. Why? Why? Let's say they give too much higher number or too big of a number, and out of some miracle, that big number is actually achieved. By chance you questioned it, and you tested with a smaller number. By some miracle, that big number is achieved, and your application bombs in production. What would happen? Everybody would start blaming you, isn't it? Guys, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sure.
Right. So what you would do is you would actually try to stick with the whatever the numbers that the business analyst has given you, especially in the especially when you are working with the smaller applications, because that's not your job. Simple, that's not your job. Okay, in case of existing applications, yes, you would actually have to ask questions, but then in case of new applications, you would have to you better stick with whatever the client tells you or whatever the business analyst tells you. Okay.
Okay.
You can offer your opinions, but then don't force them. All right, guys.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, today's discussion mostly went on questions around whatever that happened till now. Yeah, any other questions?
No, sir.
So the concepts what you taught now, will it be the same in the JMeter as well?
Oh yeah, these are all performance testing basics, right?
Okay.
So the basics would remain for same for any tool.
Okay.
Okay, any tool, whether you all the basics would remain the same. Now once we start the tool, that is when all the concepts would start changing.
Okay.
Okay, it's and the very frankly, the concepts would still remain the same in all the tools as well. Like the basic concepts, correlation, parameterization, checkpoints, transaction points, all those concepts would remain the same, but the way that you implement them in different tools would be different. Okay.
Okay.
So guys, if somebody from JMeter batch is still remaining here, you would have already gone through all these concepts.
Yes,
Right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, guys. Any other questions? All right, guys. So,
Shyam sir, I have one
please go on.
question. If the application is not in production and the client do not have any the client do not have any logs, at that time, which type of testing we need to do, sir? How to identify which type of testing we have to do?
As I said, for any kind of application,
Yeah.
You would have to compulsorily test these three kinds of performance tests: the load test, the soak test, and the scalability test. Whether it is new, whether it is existing, whatever it is, you would actually have to ensure that you would have to do these three kinds of testing. Okay.
Yes.
So we would ensure that these three kinds of testing are done, based upon whatever the requirements that the client gives. Okay. Now for the new applications, you not question whatever the requirements that the client gives. They were you would just simply listen to them and you would just simply do the testing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sir. Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Got it. Got it, sir.
No, somebody else was trying to say something. I wasn't able to hear properly. Yes, guys. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, great. All right, guys. Let's actually we are actually out of time, but then let's take 5 more minutes. Hopefully Pawan is not there here to stop me. Yeah, I don't think he's there. He's actually there. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So guys, what is the importance of performance testing? We've already discussed all this, but then just a brief overview. What would happen if you don't do the performance testing, and if the application is not working well? What would happen? Most users would walk away. Okay. And there is a huge business loss, guys. This is this 4 to 5 billion is, it's actually before 5 years or 6 years. Okay, that is the estimated revenue loss because of the poor application performance. Okay. And inadequate performance can adversely impact revenue by up to 10% as per research done by Aberdeen. So what you do, what you have to do is, the general market standard is after 5 seconds, people would start getting frustrated. Okay. 3 to 5 seconds is a, not a really sweet spot, but it is tolerable. Below 3 seconds is what you would actually try to target. Okay. that is a general application, guys. But for some of the newer applications that that are getting developed, we are actually trying to look at 2 seconds and 1 second. Okay. Any additional second of waiting on a website significantly impacts customer satisfaction and visitor conversions. Okay, so guys, let's say you open an Amazon website in order to buy something, and it is taking forever to actually load it. What would you do? You would parallelly open Flipkart as well, isn't it? And let's say the Flipkart actually comes up with very fast response times. What would happen? You'd completely forget that you have already opened the Amazon website, and you'd start ordering in the Flipkart, isn't it?
Yes.
So you have to ensure that your application performs well. Okay. Clear about this, guys? We'll share all this material. So ensure that you actually go through this. Okay. So what are the prerequisites for performance testing? There should be a stable build with no major functional defects. There could be some few defects here and there, especially like the look and feel defects. We don't really care because those do not affect the code, which affects the performance. The HTML code, that's not a big deal. We can actually work with that. So the CSS, the JavaScript files, those might not actually affect the performance of the application. So those kind of code defects, if they are there, we ignore them. But then a functionally stable code has to be available for performance testing. Okay. And one of the other prerequisite for performance testing is the performance test environment should be identical to the production environment. What do you mean by that? Let's say you have some 100 GB machine in the production environment. You would also need to have 100 GB machine in the performance test environment. Okay. Yes, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. To ensure the consistent results, the performance testing environment should be isolated from other environments. Why? Why?
Because no discrepancy for that.
See, when you are doing one test, if there are other users as well trying to access the application, okay, then your load also might actually increase a little bit. But that is not a big deal, especially in the performance test environment. When you are actually working with thousands of users, that might not be a big deal. The big deal is when these users actually start modifying the user records. Okay, your test data, if they are if they are actually modifying some things, and your test data is not in a stable condition, then what would happen? You start observing failures, or you start seeing that there are many issues that are coming up. Okay, so what you need to do is your performance test data, whatever that you have, that should be really stable. That should not be disturbed by any other kind of users. Okay, so your performance test environment should actually be isolated, should better be isolated. Okay, clear about it, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, we should not do any other testing during the performance testing, especially on the performance environment. And you should always do the performance testing before the application goes live. Otherwise, what would happen? If your application gets more number of more load than it can handle, it might not really give a great performance, and you would start losing the business. Okay, guys, first impression is the best impression. The moment somebody sees that the performance of the application is not good, what would happen? They would actually start going to some other application, right? And once they are gone, you can't bring them back. Okay, clear about it, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
So you have to ensure that the performance of the application is good. Not only performance, you have to ensure that your the look and feel of the application, every aspect of the application is good before it actually goes into the production. Okay. Usually what would happen is they would actually try to look at all the other things. The look and feel will be good. The the application would work perfectly fine. The manual testing is done impeccably. All the things they would do, but people tend to ignore a little bit about the performance testing. Okay, we have to start educating the clients that this is not something that we can ignore. Okay, clear about it, guys?
Yes.
And you should also have good understanding and knowledge on the application before you actually start doing this particular performance testing, so that you would know what are the points that you would have to concentrate on. All right, clear, guys? We've already
Yes.
discussed about this waterfall model and all. Probably tomorrow we would meet and we would discuss on the application architecture. Okay.
Okay. So Sham, generally what will be the SLA?
What is SLA? Yes. What is SLA?
Service level agreement.
No, that I understand. No, time, that I'm talking about time duration. Is it, as you said, like 3 seconds? Is the SLA that client requires?
That depends upon the kind of client that we are working with. Okay. For example, for normal banking applications and all, which I work very extensively, the requirement is usually 3 seconds. Okay. Because 3 seconds we are actually testing it in the internal environment. Now once internet comes into picture, it might actually go to 5 seconds, which is tolerable. Okay, but 3 seconds is the absolute maximum that they can accept. All right, but now when you are actually going with retail applications like Amazon, Flipkart, and something like this, then they might actually want to have an SLA of probably 1 second or 2 seconds.
Okay.
Right, because people they would actually they might actually access this particular application from a very low bandwidth kind of scenarios, and they would still expect the application to perform well. Right, so you would actually have to ensure that your application performs extremely well in order to cater all kinds of clients. Okay, and let's say let's go back to banking. Now let's say if you are working with something like a share market kind of application. Okay, if you are working with something like a share market kind of application, in that case, what would be your SLS?
It should be too fast.
It should be very fast. It should be less than a second, 0.5 seconds or something like that would be the SLS.
Okay.
Why? Because within a second, your complete value of your share might actually completely get modified.
Right.
Right. 100 rupees share might actually go down to 1 rupee.
Yes.
Within a matter of a second or two. Okay, and there is a big chance that you would get sued if your application is not performing well. Okay. Millions of dollars at stake. So the response time SLAs in those kind of applications, they would actually be something like 0.5 seconds or 0.2 seconds. Okay,
got it.
Yeah. So it depends on the kind of application that you are working with, guys. Okay, see, now why don't I have the same kind of SLAs like 0.5 seconds for all applications?
Because the customers, money is not at stake at that moment.
Exactly.
When it comes
the customer's money is not at stake, and in order to tune all these applications to that level, it would take a lot of time and effort and money. Right? Do you really want to spend the money where it is not required? Might not be. You might actually want to spend it at a better place. Right? So according to the kind of application that you are working with, you are actually having the SLAs according to kind of application, according to kind of geography that you are working with. You would have the SLAs, and you would actually work with that. Okay. Clear about it, guys?
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, guys. It's nearly been an hour since we started this session. For today, we'll close it. Tomorrow, we would actually, talk about the know your computer, as well as we'll talk about the application architecture. Okay, depending upon the kind of time that we have, we would actually talk about the application architecture as well. Okay, and we'll go from there. All right, guys.
Okay, sure.
It was a very good discussion today. It was there were some great questions today. Hopefully, we'll continue this kind of discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. If you do not have any questions, we'll stop for the day. I'm stopping the recording.
Thank you, Sam.